Section 3 of The Mahatma and the Hare, A Dream Story. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Mahatma and the Hare, A Dream Story by H. Rider Haggard. The Hare. Now I have done with myself, or rather with my own insignificant present history, and come to that of the hare. It impressed me a good deal at the time, which is not long ago, so much indeed that I communicated the facts to Jorson. He ordered me to publish them, and what Jorson orders must be done. I don't know why this should be, but it is so. He has authority of a sort that I am unable to define. One night, after the usual aspirations and concentration of mind, which, by the way, are not always successful, I passed into what occultists call spirit, and others a state of dream. At any rate, I found myself upon the borders of the great white road, as near to the mighty gates as I am ever allowed to come. How far that may be away I cannot tell. Perhaps it is but a few yards, and perhaps it is the width of this great world, for in that place which my spirit visits, time and distance do not exist. There all things are new and strange, not to be reckoned by our measures. There the sight is not our sight, nor the hearing our hearing. I repeat that all things are different, but that difference I cannot describe, and if I could, it would prove past comprehension. There I sat by the borders of the great white road, my eyes fixed upon the gates above which the towers mount for miles on miles, outlined against an encircling gloom with the radiance of the world beyond the worlds. Foursquare they stand, these towers, and fourfold the gates that open to the denizens of other earths. But of these I have no knowledge beyond the fact that it is so in my visions. I sat upon the borders of the road, my eyes fixed in hope upon the gates, though well I knew that the hope would never be fulfilled, and watched the dead go by. There were many that night. Some plague was working in the east, and unchaining thousands. The folk that it loosed were strange to me who in this particular life have seldom left England, and I studied them with curiosity. High-featured, dark-hued people with a patient air. The knowledge which I have told me that one and all they were very ancient souls who often and often had walked this road before, and therefore, although as yet they did not know it, were well accustomed to the journey. No, I am wrong, for here and there an individual did know. Indeed, one deep-eyed, wistful little woman who carried a baby in her arms stopped for a moment and spoke to me. "The others cannot see you as I do," she said. "Priest of the Queen of Queens, I know you well. Hand in hand, we climbed by the 7 stairways to the altars of the moon." "Who is the Queen of Queens?" I asked. "Have you forgotten her of the 100 names, whose veils we lifted one by one? Her whose breast was beauty, and whose eyes were truth? In a day to come you will remember. Farewell, till we walk this road no more." "Stay, when did we meet?" "When our souls were young," she answered, and faded from my ken like a shadow from the sea. After the Easterns came many others from all parts of the earth. Then suddenly appeared a company of about 600 folk of every age and English in their looks. They were not so calm as are the majority of those who make this journey. When I read the papers a few days later, I understood why. A great passenger ship had sunk suddenly in mid-ocean, and they were all cut off unprepared. When, followed by a few stragglers, these had passed, and gathered themselves in the red shadow beneath the gateway towers, waiting for the summons, an unusual thing occurred. For a few moments the road was left quite empty. After that last great stroke, death seemed to be resting on his laurels. When thus unpeopled, it looked a very vast place, like to a huge arched causeway, bordered on either side by blackness, but itself gleaming with a curious phosphorescence such as once or twice I have seen in the waters of a summer sea at night. Presently, in the very center of this illuminated desolation, whilst it was as yet far away, something caught my eye, something so strange to the place, so utterly unfamiliar, that I watched it earnestly, wondering what it might be. Nearer and nearer it came, with curious, uncertain hops. Yes, a little brown object that hopped. Well, I said to myself, if I were not where I am, I should say that yonder thing was a hare. Only what would a hare be doing on the great white road? How could a hare tread the pathway of eternal souls? I must be mistaken. So I reflected, while still the thing hopped on, until I became certain that either I suffered from delusions or that it was a hare. Indeed, a particularly fine hare, much such a one as a friend of my old landlady, Mrs. Smithers, had once sent her as a Christmas present from Norfolk, which hare I ate. A few more hops brought it opposite to my post of observation. Here it halted, as though it seemed to see me. At any rate, it sat up in the alert fashion that hares have, its forepaws hanging absurdly in front of it, with one ear, on which there was a gray blotch, cocked and one dragging, and sniffed with its funny little nostrils. Then it began to talk to me. I do not mean that it really talked, but the thoughts which were in its mind were flashed onto my mind, so that I understood perfectly, yes, and could answer them in the same fashion. It said, or thought, thus: "You are real. You are a man who yet lives beneath the sun, though how you came here I do not know. I hate men, all hares do, for men are cruel to them. Still, it is a comfort in this strange place to see something one has seen before, and to be able to talk even to a man, which I could never do until the change came, the dreadful change, I mean because of the way of it." And it seemed to shiver. "May I ask you some questions?" "Certainly," I said, or rather thought, back. "You are sure that they won't make you angry so that you hurt me?" "I can't hurt you even if I wished to do so. You are not a hare any longer, if you ever were one, but only the shadow of a hare." "Ah, I thought as much, and that's a good thing anyhow. Tell me, man, have you ever been torn to pieces by dogs?" "Good gracious, no." "Or coursed, or hunted, or caught in a trap, or shot all over your back, or twisted up in nets and choked in snares? Or have you swum out to sea to die more easily, or seen your mate and mother and father killed?" "No, no, please stop, Hare. Your questions are very unpleasant." "Not half so unpleasant as the things are themselves, I can assure you, man. I will tell you my story if you like, then you can judge for yourself. But first, if you will, do you tell me why I am here? Have you seen more hares about this place?" "Never, nor any other animals. No, I am wrong. Once I saw a dog." The hare looked about it anxiously. "A dog? How horrible! What was it doing? Hunting? If there are no hares here, what could it be hunting? A rabbit, or a pheasant with a broken wing, or perhaps a fox? I should not mind so much if it were a fox. I hate foxes. They catch young hares when they are asleep and eat them." "None of these things? I was told that it belonged to a little girl who died. That broke its heart, so that it died also when they shut her up in a box. Therefore it was allowed to accompany her here, because it had loved so much. Indeed, I saw them together, both very happy, and together they went through those gates." "If dogs love little girls, why don't they love hares, at least as anything likes to be loved, for the dog didn't want to eat the little girl, did it? I see you can't answer me. Now, would you like me to tell you my story? Something inside of me is saying that I am to do so if you will listen. Also that there is plenty of time, for I am not wanted at present, and when I am, I can run to those gates much quicker than you could." "I should like it very much, Hare. Once a prophet heard an ass speak in order to warn him. But since then, except very, very rarely in dreams, no creature has talked to a man so far as I know. Perhaps you wish to warn me about something, or others through me, as the ass warned Balaam. Who is Balaam? I never heard of Balaam. He wasn't the man who fetches dead pheasants in the donkey cart, was he? If so, I've seen him make the ass talk with a thick stick. No? Well, never mind. I dare say I should not understand about him if you told me. Now for my story. Then the hare sat itself down, planting its forepaws firmly in front of it, as these animals do when they are on the watch, looked up at me, and began to pour the contents of its mind into mine. I was born, it said, or rather told me by thought transference, in a field of growing corn near to a big wood. At least, I suppose I was born there, though the first thing I remember is playing about in the wheat with two other little ones of my own size, a brother and a sister that were born with me. It was at night, for a great round shining thing, which I now know was the moon, hung in the sky above us. We gamboled together and were very happy, till presently my mother came. I remember how big she looked, and cuffed me with her paw because I had led the others away from the place where she had told us to stop, and given her a great hunt to find us. That is the first thing I remember about my mother. Afterwards, she seemed sorry because she had hurt me, and nursed us all three, letting me have the most milk. My mother always loved me the best of us, because I was such a fine leveret, with a pretty gray patch on my left ear. Just as I had finished drinking, another hare came who was my father. He was very large, with a glossy coat and big shining eyes that always seemed to see everything, even when it was behind him. He was frightened about something, and hustled my mother and us little ones out of the wheat field into the big wood by which it is bordered. As we left the field, I saw two tall creatures that afterwards I came to know were men. They were placing wire netting round the field. You see, I understand now what all these things were, although of course I did not at the time. The two ends of the wire netting had nearly come together. There was only a little gap left through which we could run. Another young hare, or it may have been a rabbit, had got entangled in it, and one of the men was beating it to death with a stick. I remember that the sound of its screams made me feel cold down the back, for I had never heard anything like that before, and this was the first that I had seen of pain and death. The other man saw us slipping through and ran at us with his stick. My mother went first and escaped him. Then came my sister, then I, then my brother. My father was last of all. The man hit with his stick, and it came down thud alongside of me, just touching my fur. He hit again and broke the foreleg of my brother. Still, we all managed to get through into the wood, except my father, who was behind. "There's the old buck," cried one of the men. I understand what he said now, though at the time it meant nothing to me. "Knock him on the head." So, leaving us alone, they ran at him. But my father was much too quick for them. He rushed back into the corn, and afterwards joined us in the wood, for he had seen wire before and knew how to escape it. Still, he was terribly frightened, and made us keep in the wood till the following evening, not even allowing my mother to go to her form in the rough pasture on its other side and lie up there. Also, we were in trouble because my brother's forepaw was broken. It gave him a great deal of pain, so that he could not rest or sleep. After a while, however, it mended up in a fashion, but he was never able to run as fast as we could, nor did he grow so big. In the end, the mother fox killed him, as I shall tell. My mother asked my father what the men with the sticks were doing, for you know many animals can talk to each other in their own way, even if they are of different kinds. He told her that they were protecting the wheat to prevent us from eating it, to which she answered angrily that hares must live somehow, especially when they had young ones to nurse. My father replied that men did not seem to think so, and perhaps they had young ones also. I see now that my father was a philosophic hare. But are you tired of my story? Not at all, I answered. Go on, please. It is very interesting to hear things described from the animal's point of view, especially when that animal has grown wise and learned to understand. Ah, answered the hare, I see what you mean. And it is odd, but I do understand. All has become clear to me. I don't know what happened when I died, but there came a change, and I knew that I, who was but a beast, always have been and still am a necessary part of everything as much as you are, though more helpless and humble. Yes, I am as ancient and as far-reaching as yourself, but how I began and how I shall end is dark to me. Well, I will go on with my story. It must have been a moon or so later, after my mother had given up nursing me, that I went to lie out by myself. There was a big house on the hillside overlooking the sea, and near to it were gardens surrounded by a wall. Also outside of this wall was another patch of garden where cabbages grew. I found a way to those cabbages and kept it secret, for I was greedy and wanted them all for myself. I used to creep in at night and eat them, also some flowers with spiky leaves that grew round them, which had a very fine flavor. Then after the dawn came, I went to a form which I had made under a furze bush on the slope that ran down to the sea, and slept there. One day I was awakened by something white, hard, and round, which rolled gently and stopped still quite close to me. It was not alive, although it had a queer smell, and I wondered why it moved at all. Presently I heard voices, and there appeared a little man, and with him somebody who was not a man, because it was differently dressed and spoke in a higher voice. I saw that they had sticks in their hands, and thought of running away. Then that it would be safer to lie quite close. They came up to me, and the little man said, "There's the ball. Pick it up, Ella. The lie is too bad." She, for now I know it was what is called a girl, stooped to obey and saw my back. "Tom," she whispered, "here's a young hare on its form." "Get out of the light," he answered, "and I'll kill it." And he lifted the stick he held, which had a twisted iron end. "No," she said, "catch it alive. I want a hare to be a friend to my rabbit, which has lost all its little ones." "Lost them? Eaten them, you mean, because you would always go and stare at it," said Tom. "Where's the leveret? Oh, I see. Now look out." A moment later, and I was in darkness. Tom had thrown himself upon the top of me, and was grabbing at me with his hands. I nearly got away, but as my head poked up under his arm, the girl caught hold of it. "Oh, it's scratching," she cried, as indeed I was with all my might. "Hold it, Tom, hold it." "Hold it yourself," said Tom. "My face is full of furze prickles." So she held, and presently he helped her, till in the end I was tied up in a pocket handkerchief and carried I knew not whither. Indeed, I was almost mad with fear. When I came to myself, I found that I was within a kind of wire run which smelt foully, as though hundreds of things had lived in it for years. There was a hutch at the end of the run in which sat an enormous she-rabbit, quite as big as my mother, a fierce-looking brute with long yellow teeth. I was afraid of that rabbit, and got as far from it as I could. Presently it hopped out and looked at me. "What are you doing here?" it asked. "Can't you talk?" "Well, it doesn't matter. If I get hungry, I'll eat you. Do you hear that? I'll eat you as I did all the others." And it showed its big yellow teeth and hopped back into the hutch. After that, Tom and the girl came and gave us plenty of food, which the big rabbit ate, for I could touch nothing. For 2 days they came, and then I think they forgot all about us. I grew very hungry, and at night filled myself with some of the remaining food, such as stale cabbage leaves. By next morning all was gone, and the big rabbit grew hungry also. All that day it hopped about sniffing at me and showing its yellow teeth. "I shall eat you tonight," it said. I ran round and round the pen in terror, till at last I found a place where rats had been working under the wire, almost big enough for me to squeeze through, but not quite. The sun went down, and the big she-rabbit came out. "Now I'm going to eat you," it said, "as I ate all the others. I'm hungry, very hungry." And it prodded me about with its nose and rolled me over. At last, with a little squeal, it drove its big yellow teeth into me behind. Oh, how they hurt! I was near the rat hole. I rushed at it, scrabbling and wriggling. The big rabbit pounced on me with its 4 feet, trying to hold me, but too late, for I was through, leaving some of my fur behind me. I ran, how I ran, without stopping, till at length I found my mother in the rough pasture by the wood and told her everything. "Ah," she said, "that's what comes of greediness and of trying to be too clever. Now perhaps you will learn to stop at home." So I did for a long while. The summer went by without anything particular happening, except that my brother with the lame foot was eaten by the mother fox. That great red beast was always prowling about, and at night surprised us in a field near the wood where we were feeding on some beautiful turnips. The rest of us got away, but my brother, being lame, was not quick enough. The fox caught him, and I heard her sharp white teeth crunch into his bones. The sound made me quite sick, and my mother was very sad afterwards. She complained to my father of the cruelty of foxes, but he, who, as I have said, was a philosopher, answered her almost in her own words. "Foxes must live, and this one has young to feed, and therefore is always hungry. There are 3 of them in a hole at the top of the wood," he remarked. "Also our son was lame, and would certainly have been caught when the hunting begins." "What's the hunting?" I asked. "Never mind," said my father sharply. "No doubt you'll find out in time. That is, if you live through the shooting." "What's the shooting?" I began, but my father cuffed me over the head, and I was silent. I may tell you that my mother soon got over the loss of my brother, for just about that time she had 4 new little ones, after which neither she nor my father seemed to think any more about us. My sister and I hated those little ones. We 2 alone remembered my brother, and sometimes wondered whether he was quite gone or would one day come back. The fox, I am glad to say, got caught in a trap. At least, I'm not glad now. I was glad because, you see, I was so much afraid of her. End of section 3, read by John R. Moore, Albertville, Alabama, December 2022.